Hello, I'm Jennifer Zhang. Actually, borrowing from Anna E. Cook, I'm Jennifer X. Zhang. The X is for branding purposes. And today I'm here to talk to you about the psychology behind accessibility hesitation. So, first of all, why is this a recording? Well, I was so looking forward to being with all of you for the conference and seeing old friends and making new ones. I sadly tested positive for COVID yesterday, so this will be less interactive than I was hoping. And I'll miss talking to you at the speaker's booth. Feel free to reach out with questions afterwards, and I'll do what I can to help. So, who am I? I'm a Chinese woman with shoulder length black hair and glasses, wearing a dark blue t shirt today. My pronouns are she, her. I have a technology background. I started as a software development engineer and test, then became a software engineer, a program manager, taught myself to be a designer, and now I'm a director. I'm also an innovator and a hackathon winner. On the personal side, I'm a mom to a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. I'm a board game geek, and I spend a lot of time mentoring people. I'm also ex-Microsoft. While I was there, I was a key player in starting the mental health and neurodiversity work internally, along with a lot of other major initiatives around making compliance less painful and focused more around design and development technical skills and user needs. A year ago, I received the news that I was being laid off. Sarah Higley was emceeing Ally Toronto last year, and you may remember she said something along the lines of, "It's time to take a break, stretch or not. I don't really care what you do," because she had just found out. Ultimately, the layoff was good for me. It was essentially burnout leave, and now I have a lovely team. My management supports many of the wild ideas I come up with, and we have meaningful work. I'm lucky. Note, I am not a visual designer. I have amazing visual designers working for me. Thank you, Joyce Tsui. And she says that I do really good PM art that gets the point across so that she can make it pretty. All right, let's get into this. Security professionals get so excited about the latest worm or social manipulation. They geek out over the code or the psychology behind the social attack. I want that same excitement for accessibility. Let's be real here, though, it is hard to be excited when there's so much pain in accessibility work. Many of us have experienced pain in this work. On this slide, we have me wearing a bunch of different hats. I'm wearing a top hat as a project and product manager. I'm wearing a dapper purple hat with a blue feather and a leopard print, ribbon around the rim to represent accessibility designer. I am wearing a construction hat as a developer, tester, and technical writer. And I'm wearing a police hat as the compliance police. Let's face it, accessibility professionals have to do their jobs and market/sell accessibility to their peers, organizations, and companies. All this without enough resources. This many hats problem is a recipe for burnout. Shell Little did an excellent talk on this for AxCon. Do check it out. When I was at Microsoft, before I was able to create a job for myself around accessible design, this is what burnt me out. The constant marketing and selling felt like repeatedly hitting my head against a brick wall, and I had weekly tension headaches because of the constant arguing. After I transitioned to a full-time accessible design role and my immediate source of stress reduced a little bit, I noticed so many of my friends and peers in digital accessibility becoming increasingly frustrated and burnt out. These days, accessibility work is often done to the pain. Now, this is a scene from Princess Bride where Wesley is lying on a bed with a grave injury. Now, I know that Princess Bride has many problems, like Buttercup can't help herself at all. Come on. Still, the concept of doing something to the pain resonated with me. Here's the to the pain quotation from Princess Bride, heavily edited for digital accessibility, given that the original quotation is incredibly ableist. All right, so Wesley, in the context of accessibility, says, To the pain means that I'll hack up your accessibility resources so that your product will be inaccessible and you won't be proud of what you work on. The first thing you lose will be your vendor spend, then your headcount. Next, your bonuses and raises. The next thing you will lose will be your emotional stability if you still have any, maybe even your job. Your senses you'll keep, and I'll tell you why. So that every reaction of every person at seeing your product's inaccessibility will be yours to cherish. Every babe who weeps, every person who cries out, "Dear God, what is that thing?" will echo in your heart. That is what to the pain means. It means I leave you in anguish, wallowing in misery forever. Sounds familiar, right? Especially as all the layoffs happened with a lot of accessibility professionals. This pain causes people in the industry who are lovely, caring, passionate people to quit, invest less, invest differently, etc. I want to make this less painful. I have heard so many awful stories about how hard it is to get the proper level of investment. All this had me asking why. Why does this happen? After reading a big pile of psychology books, something really jumped out at me. According to Wikipedia, change management is how to prepare, support, and help individuals, teams, and organizations in making organizational change. Accessibility is essentially a huge change management exercise. Organizational change because of resources and investments, and individual change because processes and skills will have to change and evolve to do accessibility well. And to get people to be okay with that change and even embrace it, we need to step back and understand the hesitation and reaction around accessibility. Chip and Dan Heath wrote a book called Switch, which is centered around Jonathan Haidt's elephant and rider metaphor for how people react to change. Laurie Samuels, head of accessibility at NBC Universal, did a great talk on this with No Mensa, where the rider and the elephant are at an organization level. I'll dive into this from an individual skill level today. Essentially, elephants go towards anything they're passionate about, and riders go towards anything they are logically or skillfully able to handle. My elephant is motivated. It hears accessibility and heads right for it, ready to tear down any barriers with a very strong trunk. I have the passion to do it. Now, my rider hears accessibility and leans into the elephant's direction. No overanalysis or fear here. I am confident that I can deal with anything that comes up. Not everyone is like that. Here we have an avoidant elephant who sees accessibility coming in front of them and sees that they're approaching accessibility. And honestly, this elephant looks worried, a little scared, a little fearful. You know how people are really good at development, design, testing, etc. And then you add accessibility. So it's accessibility development, accessibility design, accessibility testing. And then everyone pretends they can't design or develop or test. That is a major sign that the elephant is scared. It turns out that elephants aren't scared of mice, they're scared of change. For many people, when you mention accessibility, the elephant has an intuitive gut reaction to avoid it. Then the rider, who is tiny on the elephant's back, can't make the rider go towards can't make the elephant, go towards accessibility. So the rider starts to make excuses for the elephant. And let's be honest, a lot of riders are fine not fighting the elephant's reaction because they don't feel competent themselves. Here we have an elephant has already decided no. The rider thinks to themselves, so we're not going towards accessibility. And then they say, well, I guess we can't because of XYZ enter excuse. I'm sure many of you have heard something along the following lines. We care about it, but we have other priorities. That would take too much time. We'll get to it if we get sued. We'll get to it if a customer actually asks for it. Our budget's already finalized for the year. Now, Michelle Williams shared a lot more examples of this in her talk yesterday. So thank you, Michelle. By the time you've heard these words or something similar, the elephant has already reacted. These words are all the writer trying to cover the elephant's reaction. So here the elephant has gone past accessibility, skirted around it, and the writer says, sorry, maybe next time. That reaction is largely out of fear that we don't know how to execute on the details of accessibility. It will take more time to learn accessibility than we want to spend. We don't actually care on a personal level. We don't actually understand how it impacts users. What if we do it poorly? Will we still get sued? Let's talk about part of the solution: understanding, buy in, and action. Let's take these one at a time with examples of design training. So, make it feel familiar. This is understanding. Tie it to something known to make it feel like less of a leap. Here I have some buttons on the screen: save, cancel, close, export, import, and edit. And there are red circles that represent a finger touch on these buttons. Each of these red circles overlap other red circles as well as other buttons that are nearby. This is a problem. Now, designers know Fitts' law. The bigger something is, the easier it is to reach quickly with a pointing device. And accessibility people know touch target size with CAG success criteria. So let's combine the two and teach designers that WCAG touch target size is an accessibility constraint for Fitts' law. Besides, a University of Washington study on quantifying touch shows that touching a screen is not a single point throughout a single touch action. So touch target size leaves room for this phenomenon. This is one of many possible better solutions with the buttons spaced out more. So here we have all those buttons in a row, and the green circles, now green, representing finger touch, do not overlap other circles and do not overlap other buttons. This allows the user to be precise with what they intended to do and accounts for some finger wiggling, which according to the UW study, read it, it's a great study. Next, we have make it selfish, which is the buy-in part. And the intent here is to gain personal buy-in by learning how people benefit from accessibility. An underlying concept here is to show how great accessible design is just plain better all around. Here I'll caveat that a little personal buy-in can go a long way. However, I will caution that people can take this too far. Speech input doesn't do great with accents, certain speech articulation patterns, etc., because speech input is great for everyone, was designed for everyone, and wasn't historically well tested or designed with people with disabilities. And I know people are working on that now. Great speech input would be amazing if it had been done right and designed right from the beginning, but that didn't happen. See Crystal Preston Watson's talks on critical disability theory and product design for more information. All right, so the make it selfish example is on link text, where it says link text, descriptive links give everyone a clear idea where they go, which helps users decide what they want to do. And some vague link examples are learn more at their website, along with some app icons without labels. And descriptive link examples are learn more at the Rubber Chicken Museum, and then those same icons, WhatsApp, Threads, and Medium with visible labels. There's also a little survey on the side with checkbox options. And this says link text matters to me because I use a screen reader and need to know where the link goes before opening it. I don't recognize app icons sometimes. I can't hover over the icon to see the link tooltip on the phone. I value clean, well-written code. other, or I don't need clear link text. The idea here is to probe the many ways that a user may want or need a feature in varying circumstances, giving people a personal connection to the concept beyond viewing them as merely bugs that affect someone else. This is getting very detailed about the inclusive design concepts from Microsoft and Cat Homes. Next, we have make it clear with an action. And here you can learn common deceptive patterns and best practices for accessible design. And I think deceptive patterns are often unintentionally created by poor accessibility. So this example is on accessible names. Accessible names are important for assistive technology to be able to expose information to users so an interface can be used. And Joyce created this adorable ladybug theme. So this particular example is on color and accessible names. So there's a scenario. You want to order a school t-shirt for your child, and they want a specific color. If there are no accessible labels, you may choose the wrong color, and your child may get very upset. So here we have two color palettes. One is the colors without color labels, without visible labels, and the other is that same palette in grayscale. And this scenario could resonate as a real experience that users can encounter. Also, screen reader users won't be able to select correct color either because t-shirt color, t-shirt color, t-shirt color, or color, color, color is not so helpful. I hope that with more examples like these out there, it really can shift all of tech to care more about accessibility skills. Here's a bonus developer clarity example. So this is part of a ring chart and that we've developed, and it has accessibility metadata and events in the center. The next ring out is accessibility, is assistive technology. Then the next ring out is user settings, and the outermost ring is the user. And in the center, let's say screen readers as an example. The ally metadata and events would be name, role, value, state, properties. The screen reader would take all of those. The user settings, a user could change verbosity and dial it down so they hear less information. And then the user would ultimately get name, role, value. The idea is that the designer and developer need to get the part in the center right and provide the information. And the assistive technology and the user will figure out how they want to receive that information or a subset of that information. Now, Leonie Watson touched on this yesterday. So thank you, Leonie. And another idea here is that there's too much AT out there for anyone to reasonably design or dev to an assistive technology combination, or several combinations for the same person. It's all part of an interconnected accessibility API. My colleague Izzy Beltran talks about this as a buffet table analogy, where you have everything and let diners take what they need and want. So a diner could take parts of Mexican, Chinese, and Indian cuisine, or they could take all dim sum based on their needs and wants. I would totally get a plate full of dim sum. To address the what if we still get sued worry, this is an example of the perfect solutions fallacy, which is if we can't make it perfect, then we shouldn't even try. And that is a form of black and white thinking, which is often counterproductive. And it's definitely counterproductive in accessibility. Meryl Evans emphasizes progress over perfection, and she's so right. Users really want to see true investment and growth, and in my experience, they do appreciate progress. Not performative progress, real progress. All of this is about fostering an accessibility mindset. Here we have a person with an accessibility icon where their brain would be. Note that the way to approach riders and elephants will be different depending on many factors, including the role an individual has around accessibility. Designers, developers, procurement specialists, CEOs, etc. Again, see Lori's fantastic talk on this. I do firmly believe that when leaders and deciders in companies have exposure to the kinds of examples I've shared, it gets easier for them to invest in accessibility. Many of them have come up through the ranks of engineering, design, etc. themselves. The examples I've shared can all motivate the elephant to be willing to go towards accessibility work because they are bite-sized and approachable. Here we have accessibility mindset equals the ABCs of accessibility with a crawling baby. And then we have WCAG plus is WCAG and everything around it is a PhD in accessibility with a graduation cap. And there is a big space in between these that we need to put something substantive into. We can't give people WCAG and everything around it to read right away. Some roles never need to read it. And we can't give people hours of technical training right away. This approach will also help with fostering junior and aspiring accessibility professionals. These methods need to be tied to an overall map. Destination, integrated accessibility with compliance as a less painful activity, with celebrations and highlights of bright spots along the way, among other things. Bright spots are teams who are doing really great work. And actually, David Tezzerand shared quite a few examples of how to celebrate bright spots and how he worked with bright spots. So thank you, David. So here we have a map with, it's essentially like a trail map if you go hiking, with a beginning and a destination, a bunch of possible paths that can get you to the destination, and accessibility pitfalls that you might encounter along the way. So, accessibility bright spots. One of my favorite way to highlight bright spots is to run a pilot and show how amazing the work from the pilot is. Pilots are like scouting out a safe hiking path. This worked really well during my time at Microsoft, where I ran 2 pilots way back when. One was a website with no team-owned bugs. Everything was due to the design system they were forced to use. The other was proof that simple upfront design activities could reduce bugs by 50%. And I built up from there. Microsoft eventually gave me a role that was 100% devoted to accessible design, and they gave me a special stock award for it. Pilots work. Just make sure to collect before and after data. Oh, and my current team and I have a large set of the kinds of examples I've just shared with you today, and they're getting deeper and more nuanced. So where are most organizations today? We have here a confused looking person standing in front of a maze with multiple different entry points. Accessibility has to start somewhere, and many of us have started with testing and compliance. It's a solid base to refine and build upon. Focusing on testing and compliance does miss some key aspects of accessibility, though. Trusted tester, litigation, and even certifications only get us so far as an industry. They do have their place and their pros and cons. I will not touch on that today. So look at the Justice Department's State of Government website accessibility report that they released in February after 10 years of not doing so. Here we have a Department of Justice, and this is in the US, a Department of Justice logo in 2013. This is essentially a chart. And then another logo in 2023, and there's a flat line between those, which essentially says there's basically no significant improvement over those 10 years. My social media went wild with, is this the example government provides for us? They can't even follow their own laws. Do as I say, not as I do. It was a scathing report. And that's what can happen when focusing on testing and compliance and even certifications. You can get just because. Now consider the following. Just because you find bugs doesn't mean they're valid for their context. The product team is in the best position to understand what are valid bugs, so product teams need to know what they're doing with accessibility. Just because bugs exist doesn't mean developers know how to fix them or avoid them next time. Just because design bugs exist doesn't mean designers know how to redesign or design better next time. Just because product teams know that bugs cost more as they get found closer in the process to the user in production doesn't mean everyone knows how to solve for that. Just because customer complaints come in doesn't mean product teams can address them. Just because, just because, just because. I hope you get the idea. Accessibility processes are often bloated and separate from regular engineering processes, and they're so far removed from real users. Here we have three bubbles: accessibility process, another one, engineering process, that's pretty far away, and then a bubble that's users, which is even further away. Accessibility needs to be integrated into product teams where the work happens, and that work happens on engineering teams with users. Here we have those three same bubbles: accessibility process, engineering process, and users, overlapping in a perfect Venn diagram with a smiley face where they all intersect. I hope that by having these conversations, we can be more open about what needs to change in our industry to truly make an impact. The examples I've shared today are one small part of the picture of getting people to invest individually and organizationally in the work as part of their day-to-day. Here we have a group of people with picket signs that say, "We want accessibility," and "Shift left now." I do think the industry is ripe for change management techniques that look at the holistic picture and not just at testing and compliance. People and organizations are ripe for upskilling and shifting left. We can get better at shifting left and bringing everyone along with the skills they need. Let's foster a bunch more accessibility geeks together. Here we have a child fishing off the side of a dock, and in the water, there are salmon, lionfish, tropical fish, Magikarp, and Sea King. Yeah, those last two are Pokemon. So everyone knows they have to do accessibility. I think by this day and age, there are real people who are affected by digital inaccessibility. There are accessibility laws. Not everyone knows the answer to, we know we have to do accessibility. We want to do accessibility. Now what? My deep passion is to help all of us get past the now what stage of digital accessibility, to get to where we can teach people how to fish sustainably in an ocean of accessibility. For users, for practitioners, for everyone. Okay, that was a lot. Here are the key takeaways. Digital accessibility is a giant change management exercise. Everyone's riders and elephants react differently and are at different states of readiness to act on accessibility. And I've provided examples of how to talk to the rider and the elephant. I'd love to connect on how we can make the work more sustainable so we don't all burn out, so we can keep moving forward and grow as an industry. The work is so important. Thank you, everyone.